Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to build our historian's toolkit to literally crack the case of the past. Today, we're diving into the fundamental building blocks of how we uncover, study, and organize the incredible story of human history. And we're going to put a specific focus on organizing time into eras. Here is our roadmap for today. First step, what exactly is history? Second, understanding chronology and timelines. Third, the eras of Texas. And finally, analyzing historical evidence. Let's get right into it.
Part 1. What is history? Studying the past.
Okay, before we start throwing textbook definitions at you, I want you to think about this question. How do you know what happened at your own birthday party before you were old enough to actually remember things? Well, you probably look at old photographs, maybe watch some home videos, or you just ask your family to tell you the story of that day, right? You're using clues and evidence from your family to understand your own past. And honestly, that's exactly what historians do, just on a much, much larger scale. So history isn't just some boring list of random dates you have to memorize. It's an active, ongoing investigation. It's the study of the past based on real evidence, records, objects, and accounts left behind by the people who actually lived it. It's a dynamic process of piecing together a massive puzzle using whatever artifacts managed to survive through the years.
But why do we even put so much effort into this investigation? Well, we study history for some absolutely crucial, practical reasons. First, to understand how our communities, our laws, and our own identities actually came to be. Second, so we can learn from the decisions and, let's be real, the mistakes of the folks who came before us. And third, to recognize whose stories actually get told and whose stories tend to get left out of the main narrative.
Part 2, understanding chronology and timelines. All right, so here's the thing. We absolutely have to put things in order to make sense of them. This is a concept called chronology, which is just the arrangement of events in the exact order in which they occurred. If you don't do this, history just becomes a totally confusing, chaotic jumble. Chronology is the absolute backbone of studying the past. And to visualize that chronology, we use timelines. A timeline is just a visual tool that displays events in chronological order. To map this all out, historians use specific groupings of years. You're going to frequently hear terms like a decade, which is 10 years, a century spanning 100 years, or a millennium, which is a massive 1,000 years. Now, when we're building these timelines, we often compare BCE to CE. This is super important to wrap your head around. BCE stands for Before Common Era. Here, we actually count backwards, meaning the larger numbers are the older dates. CE is the Common Era, where we count forwards, so larger numbers are more recent. They both share a reference point right in the middle, going from 1 BCE to 1 CE, with no year zero. So if an event happened in 300 BCE, it actually happened before an event in 100 BCE, because we're counting backwards toward that center point. But in the Common Era, or CE, we count forwards, exactly like we do today. Part 3, the eras of Texas. So instead of just listing millions of events randomly, historians chunk time together into eras so we can spot the big patterns of change. An era is basically a distinct stretch of time defined by shared characteristics, shared events, a specific culture, or even just the people who are in charge at the time. For example, Texas history is organized into 11 major eras, taking us all the way from the earliest peoples who lived there right up to contemporary Texas. Let's take the Spanish colonial era as an example. It spans from 1690 to 1821. It tracks related events, starting from the building of Mission San Francisco de los Tejas in 1690 to the founding of a mission in present-day San Antonio in 1718 and going all the way up to Mexico winning independence from Spain in 1821. It's a clearly defined period with shared characteristics. And across all these major eras of Texas history, there are 5 massive dates every historian knows. These are your big turning points. We start in 1519, when Pineda mapped the Texas Gulf Coast, which is the first European record of the region. Then 1718, when San Antonio was founded as a permanent settlement. Next up is 1836, when Texas wins its independence from Mexico. Followed really closely by 1845, when Texas is annexed into the United States. And finally, 1861, when Texas secedes and joins the Confederacy. Part 4, analyzing historical evidence. Now that we've got our timelines sorted, we rely on 2 distinct types of clues to actually fill it in: primary sources and secondary sources. A primary source is first-hand evidence. It was created during the time period by someone who was actually there. We're talking a settler's diary, original photographs, or government treaty. A secondary source, on the other hand, is created after the fact. It's someone interpreting or summarizing those primary materials later on, like a documentary, a museum exhibit, or your history textbook.
Now, both of these have distinct strengths and limits. A primary source is incredibly powerful because it gives you direct, unfiltered evidence. But the catch? It only shows one single person's point of view. A secondary source is fantastic because it steps back and gives you the big picture and all the surrounding context. However, its limitation is that it's fundamentally shaped by the author's own choices and interpretations. You're getting their spin on it.
So as you prepare to apply these tools yourself, I want to leave you with a thought. When future historians are studying our current era, what primary sources will you leave behind for them to find? When they look back at this decade, will they be digging through your digital footprint, your written journals, or your photos to piece together the timeline? Keep that in mind the next time you look at the evidence of the past. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy investigating.